Okay, so just first, a few thank yous are in order. So Josh Breitstein and Menashe Katz for setting up this wonderful setup, really getting us both the tech, both the physical table and the like. So thank you so much. And just thank you everyone for coming. I think this is a very important thing. A very important conversation that we're going to be having. My brother, and thank you, obviously, my brother Ezra for coming out tonight, coming in today. He has a very, very important stories, multiple stories, and narrative to be able to share with us tonight. And I believe very moving and very important. So just be Makdim, Bereshus, Rabbi Rosenbaum, Reingold, everyone. I'll just be Makdim with the following idea before we start. So we're in between two parshios of this idea about kedusha and kedoshim, and we're told in Parsha Semar, "Leisichalu Hashem Kadshi v'nikdashti b'sof b'nei Yisrael." And so Hashem presents us with this mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem and Chil Hashem, and this idea of Kiddush Hashem has many aspects to it, but we understand what it means in many different ways. But one of the ways in which we're aware of Kiddush Hashem is to dial Kiddush Hashem. And for people to put their lives on the life, to be able to save other Jews, to be able to stand for Torah mitzvot, to be able to stand for what it is to be a Jew. So Rav Soloveitchik says something just fundamentally beautiful. And he says that Kedusha yesh rak makor echad ba'olam. There's one source to Kedusha, the holiness within this world. And it's Gorim HaKorban. And that is Korban. Sacrifice is where Kedusha stems from. Kedusha v'korban heim l'maisa rayon echad. He says Kedusha and sacrifice, holiness and sacrifice are really one thing. And he says the lo korban lo yechola lios Kedusha. You can't have Kedusha, you can't have sanctity, you can't have holiness without some level of sacrifice, without some level of giving over. Kedusha notzeres rak leidei hakarva atzmis. That a person has to give over of themselves in order to be able to create Kedusha. And in the world we live in, and it's always been this case, but certainly in the world we live in today, we've witnessed that type of Kedusha. We've witnessed sacrifice, whether willingly or unwillingly, of people, including people like my brother, willing to put their lives on the line, willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of Klal Yisrael, for the sake of other Jews, for everyone else to be in safety and to be able to exist. So that's something that we're very zocha to be able to have within our lifetime. We're zocha to be able to hear from my brother, who is such a person, and who tonight will bear witness to such things. So the last thing I'll just add, and this is my brother and I spoke about this a lot, that with all the experiences he's had, both being in Givati before the war as not a sniper, I miswrote that, a sharpshooter, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
A sharpshooter, there's a difference of about 100.
There's a difference of 400 meters.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that was a misnomer on the era. So he was a sharpshooter in Givati before the war, before October 7th. He was a first responder on October 7th, and he himself was in Gaza as well. So we're going to focus. Of course, there'll be the loss and the sacrifice and the like, but today being a day where we remember, it's not just remember what was, but it's remember what we have and the focus going forward. So Mirz Hashem, those are things that are going to come out tonight. So thank you, Ezra, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you know that growing up, so Baruch Hashem, our family is Baal Shuva. And there were many things that we were focused on in life and many things that our parents brought to us in this world, and it was really fundamental and a beautiful childhood we had. But one thing which we weren't fully aware of, or we didn't grow up so much, it just wasn't on the radar, was a love for Eretz Yisrael. It wasn't on our radar. So that being said, when did you first fall in love with Eretz Yisrael, and what drew you?
So the first time I ever went to Eretz Yisrael, I got there and it was just a different place. I was in a few different yeshivas there, and subsequently for 2 years, about a year and a half, I didn't spend my time in yeshiva. I spent it in Eretz Yisrael going around. And slowly but surely, the more time I was out there, the more I realized that it's just the most special place in the world. So I think it was halfway through, already in high school, I wanted to do the army, and I think it was halfway through my Shana Aleph that I made a final decision that I'm not going back to America, and I wanted to join the army. That was the final.
How'd the family take that one?
Okay, so it's complicated. My parents were very against me going to the army. not just like, not because of the army, but because of I'm their son and they don't want me to die, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, exactly. I remember my parents flew me, but I was in Shana Bet at the time. I just got kicked out of my third yeshiva.
I didn't realize we were talking about that too, but okay.
Yeah, listen, it's chinuch. And my parents flew me back and I had a conversation with them. And I still remember the conversation to this day. My mom was very scared. She didn't want me to go. We have a lot of cousins in Israel. They know a lot of people, and you just hear the bad stories. That's the truth. You don't hear like all the good things. It's just like all the terrorist attacks and everything. So I had a conversation with them, and my mom was crying in the kitchen. She said, "I don't want you to go. I don't want you to die." And I looked at my parents. I said, if it's my time, it's my time. Even if I'm crossing the street, it's like and a bus hits me, it's still my time. It's gonna happen whether I'm fighting, whether I'm bullet, whether it's from a bus. If it's my time, it's my time. I genuinely believe that everything is from Hashem, whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but everything comes from Hashem, and I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna not go to the army because of that, because I'm afraid. I'm gonna go because that guy, I know that Hashem is gonna protect me. So my parents looked at me. My dad said, from that moment, he's never thought about it again. He said to me that even my Masakumta, even when he saw me, even now in Miluim, he still remembers that conversation and he still truly believes that. And it's because of my parents that I have the Emunah.
Yeah. So you should know that when Ezra was in Gaza, and the truth, mommy told me this straight, she didn't sleep a night. There was not a night she slept when you were there. It's a hard thing. It's not just a sacrifice, it's your sacrifice and your Mesiras Nefesh, but it's definitely our parents and our family.
Well, it's sacrifice on both sides. Yeah. The entire time I was inside, I knew that it would be okay because not only do I have my brother and my parents stopping for me, but my siblings, everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So how did you imagine the army before you began and after?
Before I began, I imagined it pretty much like most people imagine it. You get to base, people have to go left, right, left, right. They're holding guns, they're shooting, they're blowing up things. Like that's about it. You used to listen to some commands, you used to sleep in the shetach in the field, and that's about it. Getting to the army, the very first day is the biggest shock in the world. They throw uniform at you, you put it on, and from then you are not your own. You have to listen to every single thing they do. You have to ask to go to the bathroom. You have to ask to eat. You have to ask to breathe, to cough, to sneeze. Basically, anything that you want to do, you have to ask for permission. I explained it to my nephew today. He had to go to the bathroom. And I was trying to explain it to him. If you were to go to the bathroom, doesn't matter how bad, you have to look at your commander and say in the most serious voice, I need to go to the bathroom. And if you really have to go, you'll just yell, I need to pee-pee. And you just shut it off.
Thank you, Ezra.
You're welcome.
And you also had to learn Hebrew because, as I recall, you didn't speak so much Hebrew. So how'd that go?
It went great. The first month you actually learn quite a lot because you learn all these words that you just have never heard before. Mitate, lauf. Mitate is a broom, in case y'all didn't know. Lauf means to get away from my eyes, literally to like go in the other room. And I found out what litate means because we're standing in. It was like the second week, and we're standing in front of our mifakid, and he's yelling at us to go letatet achedel, cheti daka, say. Does anyone know what that means? Yeah? Yeah. So I didn't know what that meant. I just knew the cheti daka. So when everyone runs, as soon as they say tzei, you don't understand. It's like watching, I don't even know, it's like watching ants just scatter. Everyone just goes. And I'm standing there in the middle of all the dust, just looking at my kid, no idea what's going on. So my kid looks at me, he's like, Ezra, no. So I looked at him, he's like, no. I was like, I have no idea what you want from me. So he looks at me, he's like, I'm looking at him, I have no idea what litate means. So I looked at him and said, litate, ma? And he said, metate, broom, letate, to sweep. And by then, everyone's already outside. So I'm still standing there, it's slowly processing in my mind, and everyone's already outside. That was the first real time that I understood that I do not speak Hebrew.
And you've definitely come a far way, that's for sure.
Facts.
So when you first started, there are a lot of names. We were talking the other day, and we had Mrs. Nanino come in to speak to our community, and Uri is not a name that is unfamiliar to you, right? From Day FS, there were people that you were with, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say a bunch of names, and the first few names I'm gonna mention are 3-4 guys that were with me from the army from day zero, and the nicest people in the world. Lives have like a golden hearts. One was Ori Danino, one was Yosef Ochana. These were two people that the nicest, happiest people in the world. You have Eliakim, who was in charge of security, who was also with us. You have Eitan, who was with us. Another girl, Maya, who wasn't with us, but she was a part of the sharpshooter at the time, like Herek from the army that we were very close with, and there's a few others. And all of these people from, I think, 6 years ago already, 5, 6 years ago, these people have like been in my life constantly. I'm saying every year we do Pesach together, every year like we're together. Every few months we all do yeshivot. So these are some people that I truly think about a lot. Yeah.
Their names aren't just people without faces. Their faces,
No,
too.
it's not just faces, these are people that
People, correct.
yeah. Remember the laughs.
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing.
Hashem should have done them very soon.
Man.
Awesome. So you started the army. Now, what was your role and what unit did you serve before everything? Meaning already when you first entered the army.
So I don't know if anyone besides you knows like the army, but I was under Givati, which is like the purple beret. I was in Tomer, which is a Haredi unit, or semi-Haredi as they like to say. You want to be Haredi. And I was a sharpshooter. The difference between a sharpshooter and a sniper is a sharpshooter shoots up to 600 meters. Sniper will shoot anything above. So
Can I just say that when I put out that flyer, I did send it to you first?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
just point that out there. Fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know why. It just wasn't like, it just didn't cross my mind until a little bit later. I looked at it and said, oh, that's not okay. It's a little different.
And what did you do once you finished basic training? Well, where were you posted? What did you do?
So we were in Shechem, Gaza, Yarden. Where else? We were a little bit up north, but majority of my service I was down south. So for I think half a year in total we were by Gaza, half a year in total, or 8 months in total we were by Ayosh and a few other places. And I'm saying you're doing like you have your 4 months of training, your 4 months of Kav, which is like going there, being in Emdot, like being stationary, doing missions or whatever, then going back to training. It's like every 4 months it switches up. So yeah, there's a lot of random things. Like there's a lot of the good and the bad.
Well, you always use the term missions. I never knew what that meant. You were like, I'm going on a mission. So can you tell us what a mission means, or is that private, secret?
No. There's some missions that we can say, there's some missions that we can't, definitely. But in general, like majority of the time, it was either going to collect money. I'm talking about not just like thousands, I'm talking about millions of dollars just standing there, stacks upon stacks, guns, arrests. It's anything from A to Z. Anything that falls under that category of like black market, something that shouldn't be done, that we have to put a stop to, it involves the army. So then we get Modi'in, and then you go in and like with the information from the Modi'in and with your unit, you go in and sometimes it takes 2 hours, sometimes it takes the entire night. You're wadding through all the trash, you go and make the arrest, you go back home. And sometimes they're a balagan, and sometimes they're very, very simple, very quick,
And as tense as they might have gotten, was it anything like being in Gaza?
No. One's war, one's urban warfare, and one is just doing your shield. One is very simple, and one's not.
Nothing to compare.
No,
Meaning,
not comparable.
Well, we'll get to Gaza, but meaning when you went to Gaza, there was nothing that could have prepared you for being in Gaza.
I mean, besides like the training, but it's a shock. You feel the same way that you do when you first get to the army, which is just shock. You don't know how to actually process it. You're just standing there in a daze and you're looking around and you don't actually believe that you're there. And then reality comes crashing down, and then you just have to go.
So we'll get to Gaza. It's Hashem. We'll hear a lot more about that. But during whether the training or just regular Kav, like early on in your army career, so to say, meaning when you were Sadirnik, as they say, right? Sadirnik.
Mm-hmm.
So Sadirnikim. So were there moments where you looked around and you were just surrounded by people? You're like, wow, these people are amazing.
Yeah, there were a few times. There are a few times I also know, but there were a few times there was this one time I remember we went to Sad in the middle, like it was the middle of the night, we're climbing this mountain. And I remember like we're climbing this mountain with our whole team. And then at 3 a.m, we're laying on top of this mountain, looking down at this valley. And you might be wondering yourselves why. We were also wondering to ourselves why. And we're laying there with, I think, 3 or 4 bulozim, like boxes of ammunition, and also all the gumi and everything. And I'm thinking an hour and a half later, all of the Arabs started coming out and they started burning trash cans, burning tires, throwing rocks, all this other stuff. And I remember that they were just, Magav came, there was so much gas there that you can't even see, you're choking on the gas. People are just shooting into the mess, it's a whole thing. And I remember that I looked over on my right and I saw a bunch of my friends. And long story short, they wound up, it was because of them that a few Magavnikim wound up walking away safe. And ever since then, I remember like looking at my friends around me and thinking, wow, what we do actually matters. Not to the degree that what I do is going to make a difference to the entire world, but as a whole, I'm saying though, as a whole unit, we all depend on each other and we all rely on each other. And because of them, because of my team that I can actually rely on, things get done. Meaning our team, Magav, every other team that works together, it gets things done. It's not just one person. And these people are, you go into these things and there's not a question in your mind that you know they have your back. That's fine. Better? Yeah,
I guess we'll find out.
yes. Okay, let's do it. Okay.
So I guess that's really the first part, right? If you split it into sections, so to say, so that's the first part of your first experience.
Yeah.
And then you were out, you were in, out, and then Miluim, but it really changed October 7th.
Yeah.
So again, much of what we're going to focus on, as we spoke about, will be the Army experience specifically, but I don't think that we can sit here today and talk about whatever that is without talking about October 7th, your experiences then, certainly how that changed you and how that changed just everything in Eretz Yisrael going forward. So maybe we'll start, where were you that day? And maybe you can run us through a basic idea of how you ended up down south.
For sure. On the 7th of October, when it all started, as a lot of people do know, the Hazikaron in Yerushalayim, sirens in Yerushalayim, starting 6 in the morning. I was in my apartment with all my roommates. 6 in the morning, we were woken up we just had a party in our house the night before. We were woken up, and this is the first time in years that we've heard sirens in Yerushalayim, and we also knew that something was going on. So as soon as we heard the sirens, we're packing our bags. I got a message from my cousin that he was still down south by the party, and then within a half hour later, one of my friends who lived in Ofakim, like one of my good buddies who's in the army with me, he gave me a call and said that on the phone, as I'm talking to me, saying that I have to come get him, you're hearing all the gunshots and screaming and everything in the background. He's like, has his door locked in his apartment and the sofa up against the door. He has a kitchen knife in his hand and he's yelling to the phone, like, just come get me out. So me and a few others, we race to the cars, we try and get more people involved, and we go down south. Halfway through, a bunch of people wound up splitting off, and me and another person, we continue down. Eventually, we get to the area near-ish to Ofakim, to Nova, to all those places, and we weren't able to get further. So from that moment on, me and my buddy were chofshim. We went and started helping the Tzala and Mada and the army, and we started helping to get people out, to treat them for wounds, to get them out, triage, dead bodies, everything.
And on your way down, so you couldn't get around because there was a police block.
Yeah.
And when you drove through a field to be able to get around.
We drove
and what were you
after field, and
what were you?
You're just seeing at the beginning, like it's what Yerushalayim from the south is an hour and a half, about maybe an hour and 10 minutes if like you're flying down the Kvish, and which we were. But it got to a point, I think like 20 minutes outside of Sderot, they already closed off the Kvish. So we had to cut across all these fields. And at that moment, you start to notice there's like a different smell. There's like a little, like you see, there's like more smoke in the sky. There's like a little difference of the smell. You feel something. And then as you continue forward, it gets worse. And then I think after 10 minutes of that, we saw the first burned out car and a bunch of dead people. And it just continued after that. You're going down the road and you're just seeing bombed out cars, shot up cars, burned cars, people after people, either dead or dying. And just ambulance after ambulance tearing down the road. You have police, you're hearing gunshots, you're hearing explosions. It's going from like bad to slightly worse to very bad to very worse.
And you jumped on the ambulance to run your rounds, so to say. And you were still looking for a cousin at that point, or at that point that was it, and you were just running the ambulance?
So we both had guns on us, me and my friend. So we wound up going in with this guy, I forget his name, I'm sorry to say, he told us it, but with all the balagan that day, I cannot remember it. He was also a gibul in his own way. He was a driver for Atzala, and he'd been there for 2 days straight, just driving. He didn't take a break, he didn't sleep. So we were with him for 2 days. And the first day when we were going around, how it works with the ambulance, if you see a body or if you see a person, you have to stop. You want to make sure that they're okay, that you can do something, right? So every single time that we got into ambulance and we continue within 5-10 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, you're stopping already, you're jumping out. So it continues like that. And as the day's dragging on, it's already around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. At that point, we found out that our cousin wasn't able to be reached. So we just continued. I'm saying we stayed there hoping that we're going to get to him. But at that point, we knew it was already futile that we're not going to get to him. So the only point was just to continue, you know? Yeah. So we were there for 2 days, 2.5 days.
And I think just given how hard it is to be able to hear, without much detail, but there is, you described that you went into Kfar Aza at some point, but this was really post
It was
post, and you specifically went to one house. But I think sensitivity, of course.
Yeah, of course. There were so after the 3rd day after we buried our cousin, I wound up going on to my friend's base who was in Kfir. I forced my way into Miluim, and then
I want to talk about that. So don't spoil the story.
But basically, like within a week, we were already like, I think it was like 5 days, 6 days, we were in Kfar Aza, and they were still clearing everything out. And we go in there, and one of the things that will stick with me till the day I pass is the most heartbreaking thing I can say. I walked into you're seeing destruction after destruction. Burned down houses, okay, of course. And you go into these houses and you can smell like the fear, the blood, the smoke, the death. You can smell it. It's very palpable there. And then we walked into this one house where this family was wiped out, and they left this girl alone in her room. And you go in, and by show of hands, how many people here have a daughter or have children? So now imagine, for example, you're going into a room and it's a child's room, and you just see a teddy bear full of that child's blood. It's the most heartbreaking thing in the world.
And this is the things you were seeing as you were going down. So
you're experiencing it, and you just continue.
And yet you continued. So you were able to continue with that. I hear it now. I've heard this multiple times, and that one thought gets me, and you went through it.
I'm not an emotional person that still gets me. You know what I mean?
But when did it? Meaning you were going. So when did it hit you? When did it catch up to you?
The only time that it really hit me, and that's the truth. It hit me twice. The first time that it hit me was after the first day. I spoke to my parents for 45 minutes and went on a 45-minute walk. And I'm not a big crier. I'm not like a big emotional person, but that was the first time I cried in forever. And I think from that moment until then, I was still pretty much randomly, I'd start crying, and I couldn't really figure it out. And then it really hit me. So the first night it really hit me. And then when we were in Gaza, halfway through, it hit me again, because we just lost a bunch of my friends, and it re-hits you in like the gut. It's like getting sucker punched, but worse.
Yeah. So after all this, after everything you saw, you were technically not enlisted in Miluim, meaning there was a technicality, whatever the technicality was, right?
Yeah.
The point is you specifically, after seeing everything you saw and going through everything, you had to essentially re-enlist in Miluim. So how did you get back in? And weren't you a little bit scared to get back in?
So I was never scared. And again, like I'll say it again, I still believe this, and it's still very much a thing. If it's my time, it's my time, and I'm very okay with that. No matter if it's from a bullet or from a bus, like I'll accept it. So I wasn't scared, but I also knew that I had to do something. So after the 3rd day, after we buried my cousin, one of my friends was in Kfir. He had just gotten out of the army, so he actually went to reserves that day. So I showed up at his base, and he told me like where to go. I showed up at his base with all my gear, and I said, okay, I'm going in. And they said, no, go home. And I said, no. I stood outside of the sharpshooter, which is like the people that's in charge of the reserves. What? HR? I guess it's HR. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the English term, so it's perfect. So I stood outside of the HR office for a day and a half until the guy with 3 falafels passed through, some guy who was above him, God even. And he looked at me and said, what, you're still here? I said, of course. So he goes into the office. 3 minutes later, I'm inside my friend's base with a gun ready to go. And then a week later from that.
But you make it sound like it was a few hours. You stayed overnight.
Oh, well, I mean, I stayed overnight. Like I slept outside of their office.
Right.
Like I have my big bag full of gear, my other backpack that's like full of clothes, and then there's me just in my half uniform and my boots, just standing there without a gun. I have my pistol on me and just waiting. And each person that passes by does like a little once over, like, okay, you're here, and then continues in. And they kept on saying, go home, wait, we'll tell you when you can come in. I said, I don't understand. What am I supposed to do? I just was down south. I was just burying my cousin and my last goodbye. So I said, either I'm going in or I'm staying here. And a day and a half later, I was already in. And my last you know.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
I can't like throw you killer for that. So
Right.
I
Okay.
have to like put you in.
So once you were enlisted, so you spent a little time before you went into Gaza, meaning you were in the what's it called? In Jenin or no?
No, we were by Ofakim, by Kfar Aza, all of like the main places down south where everything was, that's where we were. We were like doing slikot, like going through places, going through fields, cleaning up. Well, I mean cleaning up, like yeah, evident. Going through cleaning up, sweeping through, and I was there for about a week and a half.
So then you entered Gaza.
Yeah.
So obviously you can't give too much description, probably because of security purposes.
Also,
But that being said, what was it like entering Gaza? Meaning you're going in with your unit, and what does it look like? What does it feel like? Just like give us a picture and a sense of what it was like entering into Gaza for the first time.
do y'all know what a barbecue smells like, of course, right? Or like the aftermath of, let's say you're having a fire in the woods and then you put it out with water, like that really pungent smell. So imagine that pungent smell times like 100, but add in the smell of a dead body times 100. Now put in the smell of blood by 100 and the smell of death. It's like that. It's just one of the worst smells you will ever smell. It's like similar to like cooking meat on a grill or something. A similar smell. You go in, and I remember I don't get homesick really. Like I was in the army and stuff. It doesn't really affect you. And I remember we went to Gaza, and it's just a different world. The buildings, the people, what's around you. You look in and it's entirely black. It's pitch black at night. And you look, except for like all the fires burning and all that, and you look behind you and you look at Israel and you just see all of the lights. We were actually went in by Ashkelon, so like you see all of the lights by Ashkelon and all those areas, and you're looking back and you're like, wow, I'm right next to Israel. Except you're not in Israel, you're out of Israel, literally by 3 kilometers, and you have the worst feeling in your stomach. And you look around and everything's just destroyed. There's houses are on fire, burned, exploded, and each day as it drags on, there's less and less. Yeah.
So when you entered, it's like there's a specific point. All of a sudden you realize you're not in Israel anymore.
And as soon as you leave your base, there's like without too much detail, I'm not gonna say which base also because like whatever, I don't know what I can say and can't say, but without so much detail, it's maybe a 3-minute drive in your Hummers from that base into Gaza. As soon as you pass over that fence, you feel it a little bit. As soon as you cross a kilometer into it, that's it.
So you were a sharpshooter. We got that correct. You were a sharpshooter, but when you entered into Miluim, meaning in reserves, so what was your role now?
I was a sharpshooter, medic, and magist, heavy machinist, because we didn't have a heavy machinist. So I took 10 seconds to learn how to use it, and then I was a heavy machinist. That's really how it worked. We were about to go in. I think we had 3 minutes before we going in. They're looking around. We can't find a heavy machinist. Then we realized that they kicked him out. So they're looking around, they're like, Ezra, come here. I was like, okay. They tell me to go on top. And when I mean on top, imagine a Hummer and there's a hole in the center and you're standing on top, sitting on this little thin, what do you call it? No, it's not really a saddle though. It's just a rope. So yeah, I wish it was a saddle. And when I mean sitting up, like yeah, a little bit. Imagine this table a little bit lower, like sitting on my lap, and the rest of me is exposed, and you're just sitting with this heavy machine gun in your lap, and you can like go in a circle, 360 degrees. You can also stop yourself, and it's very simple. You put the chain in, you put it down, you cock it, and then you just start shooting.
But you're exposed.
Oh yeah, you're sitting on top. Every one of your team is sitting inside the Hummer, and some of them have doors, some of them don't. And I was the only one that was sitting on top, fully exposed on this machine gun. It was fun.
Did they give you like extra gear to help cover you up?
No, that would be amazing, wouldn't that?
That's everything being donated from our shul and communities. That's
Yeah, but we still did see that.
So were any of your friends in the specific unit that you went in? Meaning you were just thrown into a unit. Were you with friends? And if not, how all of a sudden you're just with new people? And how's that work? How do you feel are you nervous to be with people you've never met before?
So I was pulled in by our Samach Mempei, who's like the second in charge of our platoon, I guess you want to say. I don't know the English term, so please forgive me, like whatever. He actually, so then he went into a unit that was for commanders. So he pulled me and two of my friends and be into his unit with him. And from there, we were in with another 20 guys, and we just joined their unit. I'm saying we were 3 Hummers, and every single day, I'm saying we were sleeping in there for a week or two at a time. And these people, within the first 5 minutes of meeting them, you already trust each other, because I'm saying they're here for the same reason, you're there for the same reason, you guys have gone through the same training, you all know that you all are a certain level of trainedness, preparedness. And there's not much more to it. I'm saying you're not totally worried about that, you're just worried about, you know who has your back, you know who your enemy is, let's go.
So total trust. That's it. You're done.
Almost.
Okay.
Except for like a few things in general, you have full trust in your team. And so it's broken.
So we always hear about so much of the humanity of the IDF, meaning so much how Klal Yisrael operates on this higher level. You were there for how long were you in Gaza? A month, 2 months?
4 months.
4 months. Okay. Well,
Yep.
yeah, that's a long time for mommy not to sleep.
Yep.
4 months. So you were in there for a while. And I mean, obviously you can attest to that, but meaning, can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like? I mean, the fact is, it's unbelievable what we do and what we do to be able to preserve life whenever necessary. So
like I'll tell you 2 stories. One is one story and one is the other. One is just before anyone gets the wrong idea, I'm just sharing it because so you all understand when you're fighting in a war, when you're fighting in urban warfare, especially, there's going to be mistakes. My team, like my unit was actually, you guys heard a while ago at the beginning of the war, there were 3 hostages that were shot, right? Accidentally. So just so you guys understand a little bit more about that story, imagine you're in a war in urban warfare and you just lost a few of your team, like a few of your buddies through other things, through traps and stuff. And all of a sudden you see a few stories up, you see movement and people yelling, wearing white on top of a building. And you can't even see them clearly. It's like from the distance. So they thought that they were terrorists. We were given the shore to shoot and they took them down. That was a mistake on our part, but it wasn't a mistake in regards to war, because in war there's a lot of mistakes and it's better to be safe than sorry. Now, with that being said, there's many shvuyim, there's many POWs, captives or captors. We captured a lot of people, captives here. We had a lot of captives throughout like the time that you're in. You find these people, and as you're fighting, I'm saying they look at what happens to their buddies and they put down their guns pretty quickly, and you take them in. I'm saying you handcuff them or you zip tie them, blindfold them, you take them in. And the last night that we were inside, we captured 450 people and we released 75 of them, because what happens is you get them, we have them all sitting on the floor, you strip them, they're all sitting on the floor tied and everything. And there's an investigator going through each one. He has a computer on his hand, and he knows all the information about each person. He looks at their information. Each one has a Teudat Zut or not a Teudat Zut for them. It's like a passport or some of the other, and it'll go through, plug it into a system, and there were three groups. There were 75 people that were put in one group, which was the people that were for sure innocent. I don't know how they know that they're for sure innocent, but they did. There were about, I don't know, I want to say like 150, 200 that were put in this other group that were 100% Hamas, and then the rest of them were unsure. All of the unsure people, they also put them in trucks. And the unsure people, they put them in one place. All the sure people that were Hamas, they put them in jail or to other places. And all the people that were for sure innocent, we released them. And they just weren't good. Yeah. And when I mean like for sure release them, I'm talking about children, adults, people that like, there were some people there in that group that I looked at them, I thought, okay, you're for sure terrorist. And they weren't. I'm saying they let them go. They know everything about them. And they're not about that. They try and save as many people as they can, no matter the cost.
Sadly. So being with your friends, we'll call them, because these are your new teammates, so to say, you're working with your buddies, yes. So having been with them for that period of time, obviously some of them you became close with. And I know, there were definitely harder times specifically that we spoke about where some of your buddies, some of your friends were hit, either injured or they were murdered. I know that's a particular difficult part of that experience for you. But I don't know if you want to, the nature of today and the nature of the discussion is not just, what was, but to be able to bring out a lot of the memories of such people. So I don't know if you want to speak about them at all or the experience.
I'm not going to say all of the names of the people I'm going to talk about right now, just to preserve themselves, their families. I don't think everyone else should know their names if they don't know them already. That's personally how I view it. These are also like really good buddies of mine, or were really good buddies of mine. So you are right. A lot of my friends didn't make it back, or did make it back and are in hospitals and all that. And we lost a lot of friends to a lot of stuff. One of the days in particular, we lost two really good friends of mine and about 8 other buddies of mine that I met within like a few weeks. One was in Mem where we were, which is like one of the commanders. One is was a Negavist, which is a heavy machine gunist, and our medic was hit and a few other people. And the reason why I'm mentioning is because there were certain days, like I we say in Hebrew and like in Israel, we say yamim shchulim, like black days. And there were a lot of those. But this one in particular, we lost the most amount of people in one day. And the reason why I'm mentioning is because all these people are Givati. They saved every single one of the other people in the unit, including myself. And whether it was through Mesilat Nefesh or not, it was through Kedusha. I'm saying I've seen so many things I don't have an answer for, I don't understand. And yet at the same time, these people gave their lives for doing the exact same thing that we were all willing to do. And they're not with us, but they died at Gibulim. They died truly heroes. There's this one good friend of mine. I'm not gonna name his name right now due to his family, but he passed away within the first month of the war, and he was actually standing next to me when it happened. And I truly think that was because of him that I'm still standing here today. They were throwing a bunch of grenades and stuff. He caught one across his whole side, and he was standing right next to me. And I walked away without a scratch, and he did not. So it's like all those people that we still remember, and we're never gonna forget. Like all of our friends, all the buddies, every single one that was in the army with us, that was not here, like Oy Denino and Yosef Postelnek, and a whole lot more. All these people, like all my friends and I, we still remember them. We still think about them daily, and we still pray for them.
So Donnie. So I suppose a little bit of a lighter, but it's not so light, seeing as the nature of you sitting in that Hummer with I would say half, mixed as Capulo, majority of your body exposed. Majority of your body exposed. So the way you've described it to me is there were moments where all of a sudden bullets were flying and spraying around you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are many words that came out of your mouth at that time. And I would, but tell me the two things, because I found this particularly moving, and I happen to think Ayla, our sister, will find this extremely moving. tell me the two things, or tell everyone, because I know the two things that where you were always beside you.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you, like in general, like when you're inside, you're not really thinking about much else except what's going on. But there's people, every soldier always has these certain phrases that they're always gonna say to themselves. Some soldiers will say, I'm gonna be okay, I'm gonna be okay, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, those type of things, just like little mantras that it gets them moving. And when I was inside, I noticed that every single one of my team, they were saying different things. Like one of my really good buddies, the thing that he always says, which is a bunch of other people did as well, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Which I remember that a bunch of us were yelling that. There was one day in particular, like you were saying, when we were driving around and we got ambushed. And all of a sudden, like, you're just hearing these bullets. Like when I mean all of us, I mean me because I was standing on top. I just hear, and you know that there's bullets getting shot at. You hear like the booms in the distance, and you feel the air close to you, and you're like, oh. So you start saying, you just start yelling to yourself, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. But I always said this one thing, which was I need dodi v'dodi li. I need a dodi v'dodi li. It's something we say by Yom Kippur, and I always said it because years and years ago when I was in the army, I was still in Tirnut. It was right around Yom Kippur time, and the majority of my family was in America, except for my older sister Ayla. And I remember that she kept on singing this song, like like constantly she would hum that. I remember like asking her, like, why do you sing that? Like, what is it? She explained to me the meaning, and she's saying that as long as I say I need a dodi li, I know like I'm gonna be okay. So I don't even know when it started. I think it was like in maybe training, but the first crazy situation we were in, that came to my mind. And when we were inside Gaza, I said that each day without daily throughout the day, and I still believe it. Those words like Shema and Vidodi Li, I'm saying it's very true. It's things that you'll say to yourself, and it's not just words. It's things that you live by. Shema Yisrael, I'm saying, like when you sing the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, it's not for anyone else but for Hashem. I'm saying you're accepting that Hashem is there, and it does something to you. It gives you an inner peace. It helps you able to continue.
I don't think Ayla knows that.
She does not.
I don't think Ayla knows.
She doesn't.
I think that'll be particularly moving to her, knowing that you were pushing yourself and calming yourself based on what she had told you years ago.
There's you notice that there's like little things in life that really stick with you. Moments that you might say they don't actually matter, and then you move on in life, or like you'll say like, oh, that's really cool, and then you move on in life. And there was actually today in Rabbi Shir, he was talking about they were learning Ilchot Shabbat, and he was talking. There's a whole nafkamina about what happens when you have an animal and you trap him inside a door. Don't trap him where you coax him inside or not. And there's a whole thing that they were saying, which is it's the whole act of leading up to it. Meaning it's not just closing a door. I'm saying closing the door is like what really makes it delaita, but the lavanan it's everything else that's leading up to it. Meaning once you finish the final act, that's everything. And it really hit me also. I'm saying that's pretty much how it is in life. You have all these like little things, these little pieces that are there, and then it's like the final moment when it all comes together. And you really see it at these times when you don't know it's the end or not, but it's like one of those things. It could be the end. Everything just all the important things are there. None of the unimportant things. I'm not thinking in my mind like, oh, I love my family so much. Of course I do. I'm saying, of course. It's a matter of you're thinking about the things that not just about your love for your family, your love for God, or for your community, but you're thinking about what makes you guys connected. And that was one of the things that truly made me feel connected.
Yeah, you can take my test in Yeshiva. So what now that we're standing here and we're sitting here and we're talking about different friends and the like, so when you try to remember friends and you try to think back to a lot of the people that you were with in the army that are either deceased, they were murdered, Kiddush Hashem, or the people are still held hostage. So when you think back to this, you remember them, but there are others to remember. I think you know it in the hospital as well,
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, of course, Yom HaZikaron isn't just about, I'm saying the main part that they focus on is about the soldiers that passed away, that died, they gave their lives, but there's, especially now, there's a whole lot more than just remembering those people that passed away or gave away their lives. There's hospitals full of soldiers, friends of ours, friends of people, some people know, some people don't, that are different for the rest of their lives. They're changed. And it's not only to remember who lost their lives, but also who's willing to give their lives and who did something in order to, and is still here. Even like I'm talking about people in hospitals that don't have limbs or whatever. I'm saying they gave over the better of their lives to make sure that everyone else can be okay. And I think that's not, it goes without saying we have to remember all the people that lost their lives, but all the people that are still here and fighting as well, to remember them as well, because they're just as important and they very much get overlooked. Very much so.
And for those of us who aren't in the army, on this list, and if I haven't said it, enough, so I am very proud to have a brother in the army. Very proud to have a brother who's Moser Nephilim. Why?
I will tell you one thing.
Oh boy.
There was I remember my brother and I were talking about this years and years ago. I was in the army and he was in America at the time, and both of our parents, I don't know if everyone knows, both of our parents are Levine on both sides. And what's the difference of like Sheva Levi? What do? The two main things. Anyone?
They sing and they slap. They sing and they slap.
Okay.
What job are you trying to get me?
Singing.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, okay, okay. So like they're learning and they're fighting. That was their main two jobs. And I remember I had the whole conversation.
I may lie.
Yeah, I had the whole conversation with my brother, and you don't usually have it that you have two brothers that complement each other, siblings that complement each other in such way. And I remember my brother and I spoke about this at the beginning of the war as well, where he said like, listen, I just wish I could like do something more. And I remember that besides the people that were fighting or anything like that, you need just as much need the people that are davening and praying for you. And I heard this shir from a rabbi that said, it's not just one person. It's not just that my brother is davening for me, that I'm going to be okay and that it works. It's that my brother is davening for me because that's something to give his mind purpose, but he's davening for all of Klal, all of the lochamim, all of the soldiers. And it's not just my brother, it's all of the people that are davening, all the people that are learning from him, all the people that are doing like davening, saying to him. And every single soldier inside, I've seen crazy things, all my friends have seen crazy things, and like you feel it. Some people don't come back, some people do, that's just the way it is because that's life. But I would never, I was never afraid because of that. I'm saying all my friends knew that we have just as many people back home or in Israel, America, all over the world that are davening for us, saying Tehillim, and with that, we're going to be okay. So it was always two things. It was always, you need both. You need the fighters and you need the people that are davening. And I remember I told this yeshiva once, this voice note went viral for the first week or something of the war. This rabbi called me and he said, I need help. Send words of chizuk to my talmidim because they think that they're not doing enough. And it like went around and they started saying more and more Tehillim and davening more because we were saying it's not just enough that we're fighting. We can't always be davening all the time, and the world only continues because of the Torah. So as much as we need the people that are fighting, we need people to also do their tafkid, which is just as hard. It's just as hard for me to go and fight as it is for my brother to stay inside of a shir and keep his mind on the shir and continue learning and not be thinking about all like his brother or anyone else. You understand? It's.
I wouldn't say it's just as hard. but
I was in yeshiva once I got kicked out.
I thought there were things that we like X'd out that we weren't talking about.
I thought so too. It's okay.
I distinctly remember, and then we'll end. For some questions. If people sent in questions, just if anyone does have questions, we would prefer that they text it to the number. Just I'll go through to be able to read some of the questions.
He just doesn't want to answer all of your questions. Don't be offended.
I'm not the one answering it, too. I will say, so that conversation I very much remember having with him, with Ezra. And in particular, I remember finding myself, and I can't imagine what it was like for my parents, but as a brother, I remember, and maybe some people have heard that, in the article, but there was a song I constantly listened to, and that was Bring Back Our Boys. Bring Back Our Boys. At least that's the name of the song, right? Okay, just make sure I got it right. And it didn't have to do with army and the like, but it took on new meaning for me. I would find myself every day just sitting in the car before Seder or after Seder, knowing that I'm going in to learn and davening for the sake of my brother. And I knew I was davening for Klal Yisrael, but I had someone to daven for. I had a particular person to daven for, my brother. And I can't tell you the amount that changed how I learned, how I davened over that period of time. And it's not the same. It's not the same Mesiras Nefesh. But there's a Mesiras Nefesh that you've done of risking your body, risking your life, and your friends of losing their limbs and losing their lives. And then there's a Mesiras Nefesh that Ezra's talking about right now. There's a Mesiras Nefesh that is not the same, but is just as much a Mesiras Nefesh when we give over our ratzon, when we give over our will, to be able to push ourselves just a little bit longer, to be able to push ourselves in davening, to be able to push ourselves in learning, and knowing that we're doing so because we're trying to push ourselves for the sake of Hashem and for the sake of others in harm's way and for the sake of Klal Yisrael. And that's Mesiras Nefesh, not the same Mesiras Nefesh. You might call it the same, but it is Mesiras Nefesh, and I think that's tremendous. In fact, that you're sharing with that, adds a lot more meaning. There's a lot more meaning to it. I think it would probably be appropriate right now, we'll say two prakim of Tehillim. We'll say two prakim of Tehillim together now, and following that, we'll open for some questions. Just take it out. So, we'll do Pei Gimel 83. Pei Gimel 83. Shir Mizmor Lasaf. Elohim al dami lach al techarash al tishkodel. Ine oivecha yimayun misanecha nasurosh. Alamcha yarimu so b'yitziatzu al tzifonecha. Amru leflo v'nachidei migoy v'lo yizacher shem Yisroel Lord. Kino tzulei yafta v'alecha b'ris yifrosu. Alei Adom Yishmaeli Moab Hagrim. Gibal V'amon V'amalei Kaleshes and Yoshetzor. Yam Ashur Yovaima Mayuzaro Livnei Lotzela. Asela Kimidya Kisisra Kavim Nacha Kishor. Nishmu Veidor Ayudom Madama. Shisemo Diviemo Karev Ukise Ukizavas Ukisamuna Konisichemo. Sheram Runi Shalano Esno Elohim. Ashi Semo Kigagal Kikash Lifnei Ruah. Yesh Divar Yahar Kulava Tolei Harim. Came to the famous Arecho Supasachat Vale. Vale Fnei Kalon Vivakshu Shemcha Denoi. Yevoshu Vivalu Aliyah Viakuru Viyadedo. ידעו כי אתה שולחן מלבדך יום כל הארץ. Off 20.
למה שיח מזמור לדוד,
למה שיח מזמור לדוד,
יחד וביום צבא יסגב דשים אלוהי יעקב,
יחד ביום צרה יסגד השם אלוהי יעקב,
ישלח עזרך מקודש ומציון יצדקה,
ישלח עזרך מקודש ומציון יצדקה,
לזכות כל מנחותיך ועבודת חידש נסלח,
לזכור כל נשאך ולעשות נסלח.
ייתן לך כבבך וכל הזמן ימלא, נראה למה בשבועתך ובשם אלוהינו גדול, אתה ידעתי כי יושיע אדוני משיחו, יעלנו משמי קדשו בגבורות ישלמינו, אין אברך אלינו בגבורות ישלמינו, ישלמינו, אימה קראו ונפנו ואנחנו קמו מתרגלי, אבל לא יושיע מלכנו יום קרבינו,
Okay, so now we'll take a few questions here. Thank you for those who sent in. Let me just see. Okay, no, that's my wife's shopping list. Okay. And what do you do for a living when you're not fighting?
So I actually worked up until a month ago. I was working in private security in East Jerusalem. So it was fighting. Currently it's not, but yeah, it was mainly fighting. It goes.
I think this is a very nice question. The others are very nice too. What is one thing that we can take with us to remember about a particular person or the war that should not be forgotten?
There's a bunch of people that I mentioned before. Ori Danino, Yosef Ochana, and David Newman, who was her cousin, Eliakim. There was a bunch of others. Maya, I could keep on naming people, and it wouldn't end. But these people, without you look into these stories and you'll hear, you guys were spoken to by Ori Danino's mother also. And when I genuinely say this, these people, these men, these women were the nicest people in the world. Yosef Ochana, he was one of the people that was with us also from day zero. And everyone that knew him, everyone that, like all of his brothers used to always say, wow, Yosef Ochana, betach ani maskir oto. Yesh lo lev zav, he has a golden heart. And anyone who met him, he was just the nicest person, the sweetest person. Ori Danin also, they were just incredibly sweet people. David, all these people, they would walk into a room and they would change the room. You would wanna be better because they're around you. I'm saying these are the nicest people. Their mitot were incredible. And they would always be the life of it, you know, they would always be very happy, very, very happy, talkative. They were extroverts in that type of way. They just, everything they touched was like, they loved. They helped a lot of people really love what was going on around them. So actually my last few days with my cousin, he was in my apartment. He had just come back from India recently, and he was also different. And you can see how much just being around him affected everyone. Everyone's always smiling, always friendly, always nicer. And the one thing I will say is that all of these people always had one thing in common, which was chesed and just kindness. They were just kind people. And I think that the most important thing that we can do, especially to keep on remembering them specifically, and all the other people that lost their lives, is just keep on doing the midot tovot, keep on just being good, nice people, smiling to people, being nice, going out of your way to help people, chesed, tzedakah, davening. All these little things are the best ways to remember them. And how we always say is that yes, it's very sad that our friends are not here with us, but we also, a bunch of my friends and I, we always say, לפחות הם בשמיים, עכשיו הם במקום יותר טוב, at least they're in heaven, they're in a better place. ישתבח שמו לעד, תודה לאלוקים. Thank God.
And as people who very much appreciate what your friends and everyone have done, continue to do what you've been involved with. So every single one of us here, I'm sure, it gives us a little bit more chizuk to continue learning, continue pushing ourselves to be able to grow, knowing that that's their Mesiras Nefesh. Our Mesiras Nefesh, our pushing ourselves, is the way we can continuously give to Klal Yisrael. We can continue to give to all the other soldiers with our davening and just pushing ourselves just a little bit more in all the things that we can do better. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you. Edmund's very happy to talk with people afterwards. Anyone wants to talk after. I think it makes sense. We'll do Mariv upstairs. We'll start Mariv in 5 minutes.